Shri Krishna, Shri Krishna. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We are in Vibhuti Pad, 35th Sutra. Before that, we will read one or two sutras and then enter 31st Sutra. Kurmanadyam Sthairyam Murdha Jyotishi Siddha Darshanam Pratibhadva Sarvam Hrudaye Chitta Samvita. We are studying the various kinds of vibhutis which are manifested as a result of the practice of Sayyama in different parts of our own body. Here, this is one very important thing which I told you. Sayyama is done on distinct clear parts of the body. So also the bhavana or the dharana. Unlike the Kundalini Yoga, where it is only at the thought level, conceptual understanding. But here it is, the Sayyama is done on the gross parts of body, inside, outside. And as the result of which, the mind gets more and more dissolved and the consciousness or awareness increases more and more in our knowledge. Because mind is also knowledge, awareness or consciousness is also knowledge. But the problem is, the mind as a knowledge has more of the importance of objectivity, anatma amsha, and the consciousness has basically the atma amsha. The consciousness by itself doesn't have any objectivity. So when we do Sayyama, Trayamekatra Sayyamaha, what we have done, that the objectivity aspect of the mind is reduced to a great extent, not completely. If it is complete, then it is consciousness. And after reducing the objectivity in a great extent, then the mind has become fully under our control. Now such a mind, when it is focused on anything for a regular period of time, then the various potentialities which are hidden in the mind, they start surfacing. And those surfacing of the inner hidden potentialities is called as the invocation of siddhis or the vibhutis. This is how the whole thing is. And after having seen different kinds of siddhis, in the 33rd siddhi, a totally different type of non-sayyama. Sayyama is not mentioned in this. Pratibhadva sarvam. So pratibha jnanam is, it is the stage prior to the viveka khyati or discrimination. What is viveka khyati? Viveka khyati is sattva purusha. Sattva is antakaran, purusha is chaitanya. The separation, distinction, separateness of the antakaran and the chaitanya, when it takes place perfectly, that is called as purusha khyati. Now before this thing comes, there is a stage called as pratibha jnanam. And in this Pratibhajnanam, because it is a precursor to the ultimate discrimination, Pratibhadva Sarvam. So Pratibhad Nama Tarakam Tad Vivekasya Vivekajasya Jnanasya Purva Rupam Yathodaya Prabha Bhaskarasya Tenava Sarvaveva Janati Yogi Pratibhasya Jnanasya Utpattau Iti. Like before the sunrise, the dawn is already illuminating the whole world. In the same manner, before the rise of this discrimination, this Pratibhajnana start appearing. Now here, before we go further, one or two very important things. You know what happens? We are unable to appreciate one basic principle of life, and that is, we have to change. And if that is appreciated by us, then only we can do yoga abhyas or any spiritual practice. When that is not understood, we will be all the time extrovert. And once this is understood, then we will try to find out what are the potentialities, invoke them, what are the negative points, delete them, and this is how we go spiritually. And therefore, if we are growing spiritually, some great experiences must take place. And what are those great experiences? One of them is Pratibhadva Sarvam. We develop the intuitive faculty. We remain calm and quiet. Nothing disturbs us. And not only that, we don't talk much. It's one very important thing. I receive non-stop, long-distance, disgusting calls, and their only problem is this. They go on talking. And the more you talk, the more you create problems. So, there is no end to that. And then you go into circle. And then, okay, you have spoken for 1 hour. Now, what is the conclusion? Zero conclusion. Therefore, we have to become more aware about our own mind, its functioning. And the more we become aware about mind and its functioning, this Pratibhajnana start appearing. Then we don't require anybody's support from outside. Please remember, don't try to be a weakling, a creeper, hang on to somebody. That's why when many students they come, they expect that we go to Swamiji and you will become weaklings. You have to become an oak tree to support other creepers. Then only you are worth walking the spiritual path. And that has to be discovered and developed. That is what is called as Pratibhajnanam. Now when this Pratibhajnanam is slowly developed, our Sayama, discrimination becomes clear. Why I am giving this introduction? Because our next sutra you will not understand without this. Now when we have thus developed this Pratibhajnanam, Viveka, Purusha Khyati is now slowly happening. We are able to now come to a stage where Chitta and the reflection of Purusha in the Chitta has to be separated. And for that, 34th Sutra told us. What? Hrudaye Chitta Samvita, Hrudaye Sayyamat. When we do Hrudaye Yadidam Asmin Brahmapure Daharam Pundarikam Veshma Tatra Vijnanam. In this Hrudaye is the Antakaran. And in this Antakaran, Tasmin Sayyamat Chitta Samvit. When you focus your attention on or do the Sayyama on this Chitta, Chitta Samvit takes place. Be very attentive. What we normally do is focus attention on the thoughts. See? And what we are told, observe your mind. And what we do, we observe our thoughts. Basic mistake. When you go to a place and you are told, observe the cloth quality, and you tell that it is well stitched, the color is very good. Who is the tailor? That means you are straight away disrespecting the instruction. What are the instruction? Observe the quality of the cloth. What you have done? Everything except observing the quality of the cloth. In the same manner, we are told to observe the mind. But what we do, we get carried away by the thoughts. And then after that, we justify. What is the mind? Mind is thoughts. Mind is not thoughts. See? And therefore, we get so much carried away by the mind, by the thoughts. Therefore, Sayyama on the Chitta means the thoughts, their presence and absence will not disturb us. Like when we are told, see whether it is made out of pure gold or not. And what is given to you? You are given an idol of Bhagavan Sri Krishna. Now, if you have to see whether it is made out of pure gold or not, and if you get carried away by the name and the form and your emotions, you will miss. See? Therefore, yasmin idam brahmapure dharam pundarikam veshma tatra vijnanam, and tasmin sayyama chitta samvid. So what we have to do is only this. First, recognize what is the meaning of the chitta. It can't be told. You have to yourself discover. And if we have recognized what is the chitta, then any thought in the chitta or the mind will have zero impact on us. Because our focal length is on the mind and not the thoughts. See? Mind is formless. Thoughts are with form. Mind is birthless, deathless. Thoughts are with birth and with death. Mind is modificationless. Thoughts are the modifications. Now this state where you are, if you are able to come over here in this state effortlessly, you are slowly getting into Hrudaye Sayyamat Chitta Samvit. Now here you are not understanding anything. The moment you understand, it will be a thought. And once you are able to appreciate, recognize, hey, this is what is called as Chitta. See, I tell you one example about it. One day, I was doing something on my computer, and I had never studied computer science or anything. Only by practice and learning, fiddling, I learned. One day I was telling something to somebody, and that somebody was some software engineer, hardware engineer, some kind of. So he asked me, Swamiji, which institution you have graduated? I said, Pilani. He said, no, tell really. I said, why are you asking this question? He said, your observation is not the observation where you go to the college and learn. I said, what is the observation? So I told him, I said, look here, the concept of the Windows is, the computer can operate at any number of layers. And the difference between the layers is so microscopic, mini microscopic, that for the naked eye it is not very much appreciable. And therefore on each layer you open one window, each layer you open one window, and so many windows are opened, but it is actually like a multi-storied windows. And whichever window you activate, that comes in your perfect focal length. Others become disappearing or very dim, unactivated. In the same manner, if this example is clear, in the same manner, all the thoughts are different layers in the mind. And if you focus attention on the mind proper, then the thoughts will not disturb. Like when many windows are being operated, they do not disturb each other. You can work simultaneously. Because now you are holding on to the monitor, the mind, not the thoughts. So in this manner, when we recognize by this Sayyama what is this Chitta, then the next stage comes. And what is the next stage? This is 35th Sutra. Sattva Purushayoho Atyanta Asankirnayoho Pratyaya Avishesho Bhogaha Pararthatvat Swartha Sanyamat Purushas Jnanam. When I was studying this sutra, such a joy. It really brings out the most subtle point in a most beautiful manner. Now this is the 18th Siddhi in the list of Siddhis. Swartha Sanyamat Purushas Jnanam. Before that, the teacher says, Sattva Purushayoho Atyanta Asankarniyoho Pratyaya Avishesho Bhogaha. You don't know what you are abusing. All the words mean nothing to us. See, let us understand first the whole thing and then we'll go word by word. Purusha and Prakriti, they are absolutely separate from each other. The Purusha gets reflected in the Sattva, means Antakaran. And if that Antakaran or the Chitta is having a thought, then the reflection of this Purusha in that thought takes place, and their Anyonyadhyasa, their mutual superimposition, is so perfect that one is not able to separate the thought component and the reflection of the Purusha in the thought component separately. One is not able to do that. This experience is called as Bhoga. Therefore, any experience, any Bhoga is possible only when that particular object is included in the Buddhisattva in the form of the thought, and that thought is reflecting the reflection of the Purusha, and as a result of which there is an experience where the Purusha's reflection becomes the experiencer and the Buddhi aspect, the thought aspect, becomes the experiencer. So experiencer and experiencer, when they come together, there is an experiencer. This is how it is. Therefore, if this is understood, now in this whole understanding, what is required is, we are now ultimately leading to where Purusha Prakriti Viveka Khyati, clearly, distinctly. To such an extent, if you see the definition of Kaivalya in this Vibhuti Pad, it is the last sutra. Sattva Purushayoho Shuddhi Samme Kaivalyamiti. Sattva means Antakaran, Chitta. Purusha is Purusha, Chaitanya. When the purity of the Chitta is equivalent to the purity of the Purusha, that is called as Kaivalya or liberation. Now, to reach to that stage, what is required is, we have to go through all these stages. So earlier, all Sanyamas which were done, they are practice. They are not for gathering siddhis. So that you do the practice of Sanyama. It is something like, the children are given examples. Mathematics examples. In the class they are taught simple things by the teacher. 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Here 111 plus 111 is 222. Simple things are taught. Then examples are given. In the same manner, these are the different exercises of Sanyama. Now when you start doing this Sanyama, how will you know that you have perfected this art of Sanyama? Who will tell you? It is all subjective. And in that process of doing Sanyama, you will get a certificate. From where? Not from outside. You will get a certificate in the form of discovery of those siddhis. Then don't stop there. Then come to this Pratibhas Jnanam, Vivekaja Jnanam, and then come to the Hridaya Sanyama Chitta Samvit. And after you have recognized what is the meaning of the Chitta or the mind, then you will be able to understand the reflection of the Purusha and the Chitta. See, normally what happens, we all are in the stage of bhoga, where the Chitta with the thought carrying the reflection of the Purusha gives us the bhoga, and in that bhoga we get so much lost that this anatomy of the thought is not understood. So what is this spiritual practice is dissecting each and every layer by layer. And that is why this Sattva Purusha Anyata Khyati. Sattva Purusha Anyatha Khyati means what? Sattva means Antakaran, Chitta. Purusha is the Chaitanya. Anyatha, they are separate from each other. This Khyati, this discrimination, to come to this ultimate, we have to first recognize what is the Chitta. Then we will recognize what is the reflection of the Purusha in the Chitta. And you cannot recognize Purusha. You can only be Purusha. Because na tatra chakshur gacchati, na vag gacchati, don't forget. So by this Viveka Khyati, we can reach only up to the reflection of the Purusha in the Antakaran. And for that is all this prapancha. See, even by simply listening to this, observe your quality of your mind. And in this quality alone, you can go in the deeper layers of Prakriti. And the one who is all the time only in the husband is like that, wife is like that, what to talk to such people? Many people tell me, Swamiji, you go to Lonavala, and here more people. One person told me, see, here hundreds and thousands of people come, more people are benefited in Lonavala, how many students are there and all that thing. I said, how many times should I eat only mungfalli? Let me eat rasgulla once in a while. I said, when I come to you and talk in the crowd, do you think I talk sense? See, I am unable to go anywhere. It is only superficial. The moment you tell me, today it was very heavy, it has gone all above. And above story is empty. So, the more subtler you go, you will slowly come to recognize. Now, here, first of all, we will take the sutra word by word. What is said? Sattva atyanta asankirnayoho. Sattva Purushayoho Atyanta Asankarniyoho. Sattva and the Purusha, these two of them. Sattva and Purusha. Sattva means Antakaran and Purusha means Purusha, Chaitanya. Atyanta Asankirnayoho. They are totally different from each other. They are not the same. But vritti sarupyam itaratra. Tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. Then, if that swarupe avasthanam has not happened, then vritti sarupyam itaratra. And in that vritti sarupya, the Purusha, the reflection gets identified with the vritti to such an extent that the pratibimba, the reflection, and the vritti, they appear to be exactly one, and that is called as bhoga. So, atyanta asankirnayoho sattva purushayoho pratyaya avisheshaha. Pratyaya avisheshaha means they are not recognized as separate. This, Sanskrit language, unless you are having the proper, what you call the knack of understanding, it becomes very difficult. This is all the language of negation. Sattva Purushayoho Atyanta Asankirnayoho. Negation. And then Pratyaya Avishesha, there also negation. He could have easily said the other way around. What is that? Sattva Purushayoho Atyanta Alagayoho. And Pratyaya Vishesha. But instead of that, it is said the other way around. Okay. Now, as a result, what happens? Bhogaha. So, when the pratibimba of the Purusha falls in the Sattva, now which are these two things? They are of absolutely opposite nature. Purusha is Chaitanya, and this Sattva Antakaran is Jada. And when the reflection of the Purusha falls in this Jada Antakarana Vritti, that time they mix to such an extent that the Vritti start appearing as if enlivened. And in that enlivened experience, the bhoga takes place. Now, the question is, who does the bhoga? This is another beautiful thought. Atyanta asankiranayoho sattva purushayoho pratyaya avishesha bhogaha pararthatvat. Now this bhoga is for whom? Is the bhoga for the antakarana or the purusha? Now this is the question. Because what is the bhoga? Reflection of the purusha in the antakaran together is called as bhoga. Now there are two components. Now who is enjoying? So, pararthatvad. Prakrutehe sattvasya antakaranasya pararthatvad. So this antakarana or the prakriti, don't write, you are writing wrong. This prakriti or the antakarana is meant for purusha. See, eyes are not meant for eyes. They are meant for the seer behind the eyes. Similarly, these buddhi, antakarana vritti, which is comprehending the worldly object in the form of the thought, and in that thought the consciousness is reflected and there is an experience of the bhoga. Now who is doing the bhoga? For whom it is? So can it be for the prakriti or the antakaran? No, because pararthatvad. Prakriti is meant for the use by the purusha. Therefore bhogaha purushasya eva. That is the meaning of pararthatvad. So pararthatvad. So parasmai idam iti para buddhi sattvam tasya bhava pararthatvam. Now in this manner, after having understood parartha is the prakriti or the antakaran, then in reference to this swartha sayyamat. Now in reference to this, now you come to the understanding of what is the swartha. So what will be the swartha now? Swartha will be the reflection of the consciousness in the antakaran. In the language of our Vedanta Shastra, Chidabhas. See? So when you do Sayyama on this reflected consciousness in the antakaran, meaning on the Chidabhas, then Purusha Jnanam. Then you get the knowledge of the Purusha. Be very careful. This is not realization. Because what you are getting is only the reflection and not the original. See how step by step one has to go. Otherwise that Chidabhasa, Jiva Bhava will be accepted as the reality. It is not. But unless you recognize the reflection, you will not be able to reach the reflected. See how step by step. Anything in this world is recognized through the antakaran. When that thing is included in the thought of the mind, and in that thought containing that object, there is the reflection of the consciousness. As a result, that thought becomes enlivened and there is an experience. Bhoga means experience. Now that bhoga is for the reflected consciousness, Chidabhas, not for the buddhi vritti. And therefore, when it is a good experience, ha ha, when it is a bad experience, hoo. But the Chaitanya, Shuddha Chaitanya, for that Shuddha Chaitanya, Prakriti as well as the reflection of the Chaitanya in the Prakriti, both of them are objects of knowledge. This is what is the 13th chapter also. Kshetrajnam chapi mam viddhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. That is why, when people want to study, they just go about, no, this is not meant for Vibhuti Bhavan. What will you do with the all, Siddhis? They already told you should not worry about Siddhis. This is not worrying about Siddhis. This is the step by step you have to go. You cannot bypass. Otherwise, we'll have to say Patanjali Maharshi has unwantedly added these sutras or what? These are all requirements. See, it is so important. Therefore, don't imagine that this is, if you do this thing happen, that didn't happen. It is not only for telling that, but when you start practicing, see, initially, if you remember, Bhagavan Vedavyasa has told that all these siddhis, whatever are told, try one. Nasikagre, dharana, if you do, then you get the Gandha Samvit. So when you do that, then you understand, hey, what is said in the sutras is truth. It's not only cock and bull story. Acha. Now, here, after having understood this basic thing, now let us go to the Bhashya. What Bhagavan Vedavyasa has to say. Prakhyashilam buddhisattvam. Buddhisattvam, buddhi, antakaran, is prakhyashilam. Prakhyashilam is what? Illuminator. Prakashatmakam. That is the shila, that is the quality of the antakaran. So, prakhyashilam, buddhisattvam. And samana sattvopanibandhane rajastamasi vashikritya. Then what happens? This antakaran is not only sattva guna, but in that sattva there are also two more things. And which are those two more things? One is agitations, and second is the dullness or the ignorance. Rajas and tamas. So only that antakaran, where the samana sattvopa nibandhane rajas tamasi means what? Sattvopa nibandhanam avinabhavi sattvam. Avinabhavi sattvam means samanam ekarupam sattva upanibandhanam. Means what? Out of these three aspects from the antakaran, sattva, rajas and tamas. So this rajas tamasi, these two of them, tamas is a feminine noun. And therefore, rajas tamasi, they become dual case and it has become is. We are not studied. You must have studied now. Sakaranta, Strilingi, there it comes. Manasi, like that. So, rajas tamasi, when these two things are vashikritya. Vashikritya means that antakaran where sattva is predominant, rajas tamas is quietened. And this is what is the abhyas of Sayyama. When we are doing Sayyama, what it means? Our mind is not disturbed, Rajoguna gone. And we are not going to sleep, Tamoguna gone. So Sayyama is a quality of the mind where Rajas Tamas is brought to virtually nil. In that Shuddha Sattva Antakaran, Vashikritya Rajas Tamasi, then Tasmacha Parinaminaha Sattvat, and then this Vashikritya Sattva Purusha Anyatha Prayatnena Pratyayena Parinitam Sattvam Cha Purusham Cha Tayoho Anyatha Viviktam Vibhaktam Iti. Now when this condition takes place, see, Buddhi Sattvam Prakhyashilam Sattva Samana Sattvopanibandhane Rajas Tamasi Vashikritya Sattva Purusha Anyatha Pratyayena Parinatam. Then what happens? It is so small I can't read. Here it's bigger one. Sattva Purusha Anyata Pratyaya. Sattva Antakaran, where Rajas Tamas is zero, only Sattva. So Antakaran Sattva Guna Pradhan. And Purusha, the Chaitanya. Anyata, separateness. Pratyayena, understanding. Parinatam, this happens. See? So, Buddhi Sattvam Prakhyashilam. The intellect is the illuminator. But when this antakaran is free from rajas tamas, then in that quiet, undisturbed, non-sleepy antakaran, when the reflection of the consciousness takes place in the form of the Chidabhasa, then these two things can be distinctly and clearly separated out. But for that, what is required? First condition, we must know what is chitta. And therefore, Hrudaye Sayyama Chitta Samvita. If the chitta is not known, this 35th sutra will not be understood. So, Buddhi Sattvam Prakhashilam Samana Sattvopa Nibandhane Rajastamasi Vashikritya Sattva Purusha Anyata Pratyena Parinatam. Further, Tasmacha Sattvat Parinaminaha Atyanta Viruddha Atyanta Vidharma Vishuddhaha Anyas Chitimatra Rupa Purushaha. Now, as a result, what happens? Tasmacha, as a result of this, Sattvat Parinaminaha. Antakaran is constantly changing. Sattvat Parinaminaha is the fifth case. Parinaminaha and Sattvat. Parinaminaha is the adjective. So that antakaran which is constantly changing, and when there is a comparative, we use the Panchami Vibhakti. So, in comparison to this constantly changing antakaran, Sattvat Parinama Tasmacha Parinaminaha Sattvat Atyanta Vidharma, absolutely opposite nature. What is absolutely opposite nature? Vishuddha, meaning in the antakaran there is a possibility of admixture of rajas and tamas. Because antakaran is the karya of prakriti. Prakriti is trigunatmika. Purusha is beyond prakriti. And therefore, this Purusha is atyanta vidharma, totally of the opposite nature. What is opposite nature? Antakaran is trigunatmaka. Purusha is beyond the three gunas. Antakaran has the possibility of influence of rajas and tamas. Purusha, being beyond the three gunas, has zero possibility of rajas and tamas. Antakaran being the karya, effect of the prakriti, there is every likelihood of constant change. Purusha has no possibility of change. Therefore, atyanta vidharma, viruddha, vishuddha, immaculate, pure. Now this anyas chitimatra rupaha purushaha. So in that antakaran, which is Shuddha Sattva, no Rajastavas, in that Shuddha Antakaran, when the Pratibimba, the reflection of the consciousness takes place, you will be able to very clearly find out and recognize that there is Sattva Antakaran, Shuddha Antakaran, and in that Shuddha Antakaran, this is the reflection of the consciousness. This you will be able to very clearly separate out. See how much sukshmata is required. Who can do this? He who has quietened the impact of rajas and tamas. Then only this is possible. Therefore, Tayoho atyanta asankirnayoho pratyaya ashe avishesho bhogaha purushasya darshita vishayatvat. Now, if this basic principle is understood, now further, how the bhog takes place. Tayoho atyanta asankirnayoho. Now these two, reflection of the consciousness in the pure mind, sattva mind, and the sattva mind. That means the reflecting medium and the reflection. To understand this, if you stand before the mirror, you will be able to understand what I am talking. When you are focusing attention on your beautiful face, you have got a different focal length. And when you are focusing your attention on the surface of the mirror, you have got a different focal length. See? Be very attentive. When you are focusing attention on your reflection of your face in the mirror, you do not see the surface of the mirror. And when you focus attention on the surface of the mirror, your face becomes dim. See? So you can very clearly bring it out in the same manner. The sattva purushayoho atyanta asankiranayoho, they are extremely together. They are not separately appreciated. So atyanta asankaranayoho pratyaya avisheshaha. And therefore pratyaya, their recognition as separate from them is not recognized. Avisheshaha, they have merged as if they are one. So how do we recognize? We recognize the antakarana and the reflection of the Purusha in that antakarana as if it is one thing. But there are two. Like when you are looking at the mirror, there, unless what I told you, it is specifically practiced and recognized, we hardly ever care to see that there is something called as reflecting medium and a reflection. When you go deeper and deeper, you don't have to struggle to suspend the thinking process. Because when you go deeper, objectivity starts disappearing. And you can reach only up to the Chidabhas, reflected reflection of the Purusha Tattva. But beyond that, there is no reach of your understanding. It is something like eyes trying to see the eyes, or the reflected face in the form of a reflection in the mirror. When you stand before the mirror, your reflection from the mirror tells, how many times will you brush? Imagine. It can never happen. In the same manner, when we are able to reach up to this point, thereafter everything ends. Knower, known, this is called as asamprajñāt samadhi. And at this stage, yogaha chitta vritti nirodha is complete. And when it is complete, tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam, then the Purusha is liberated from the relationship with the Prakriti. And when this Purusha recognizes his own essential self, then he says what Bhagavan says in Bhagavad Gita. Kshetrajñam chapi mam viddhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. There are not many Purushas. This is how go step by step. Be contemplative. Tayoho atyanta asankirnayoho pratyaya avishesho bhogaha purushasya. The who is doing the bhoga is for the Purusha. Darshita vishayatvat. Because that antakaran is comprehending the object for whom? For itself? No. For showing it to the Purusha. Because antakaran is an instrument for the Purusha. So darshita vishayatvat. So the Vishaya, the object, is shown by the Antakarana to this reflected consciousness. And therefore, the Bhoga is not for the Antakarana. That is why one of the spiritual practice we tell you again and again, there can be an experience of misery, and if you stop there, you have done the Vivek Khyati. But what happens? We get identified with the misery and become miserable. So when we become identified with the misery and become miserable, that is what is called as tayoho atyanta asankirnayoho pratyaya avisheshaha. They are not separated, avishesha, they have become common. Samanya, one. This is called as purushasya bhogaha. And darshita vishayatvat. So if the object is joy, ha ha. If the object is misery, hoo. If the object is gain, wow. If the object is loss, eh. Who is doing this? Purusha. Which Purusha? Shuddha, aha, the reflected. That is why when I give this example, many people only take it as a joke and don't understand the depth. All what we are studying here, I give this example very simple. Man is the happiest person. Husband is the most miserable. Now find out where is the man and where is the husband. See? Reflected man in the medium of wife is called as husband. And it is the eternal principle. And therefore, what the husband will see, whatever the wife, the prakriti, the buddhi will bring forward. See, in Bhagavad Mahapuran, there is one Puranjan Akhyan. In that Puranjan Akhyan, the whole story is like this only, based on only this Yoga Shastra. When I was talking on that, but there, the audience is of a different type, They are all the time, Krishna, Rama, gang. Now, there you can't go with all the technical terms. So there you go with surface swimming. All are surfers. There are no divers. So, tayoho atyanta asankirnayoho pratyaya avishesho bhogaha purushasya darshita vishayatvat. Now, sa bhoga pratyayaha sattvasya pararthatvat drishyaha. Now that bhoga pratyaya, that experience of the particular object, sa bhoga pratyaya sattvasya pararthatvat drishyaha. Now that bhoga is an object of knowledge for the sattva, antakaran. Because antakaran has no problem. Whether you take sugar in the spoon or you take salt in the spoon, how does it matter for the spoon? It doesn't make any difference. So for the antakarana sattva, every bhoga is only drishya padartha. Drishyaha. Now yaha tu tasmat vishishtaha chiti matra rupo anya purushaha अन्यः पौरुषेयः प्रत्ययः तत्र संयमाद पुरुष विषया प्रज्ञा जायते. Now after having completed this portion, now the teacher takes her for the sanyama. Now what he says, yaha tu tasmad vishishtaha chiti matra rupa anyaha. Now you go out of this. So where are we now? Antakarana. That antakarana is comprehending any object because pararthatvat, it is meant for the purusha, it is an instrument. And the comprehension is in the form of the thought. And in that thought there is a reflection of the purusha. And there the experience is called as the bhoga. Now this bhoga does not have any influence on the antakaran because it is just holding it. So for the antakaran it is drishya matra. Now from here we go to one step further. Now here the teacher says, Yaha tu tasmad vishishtaha chitimatra rupaha anya paurusheya pratyaha tatra sayyamad purusha vishaya prajna jayate. Now what we have to do? The object in the vritti and the bhoga, that is experience, all the three things are objects of knowledge, drishya padartha. Now here we have to do the sayyama. We have to do the sayyama only on the reflection of the shuddha chiti in the antakaran. There we have to do the sayyama. We cannot do sayyama on the shuddha chiti. Mind has no access to the shuddha chiti. Now what is the meaning of doing this sayyama on that purusha? Means we all do every day this thing. We observe, I am disturbed today, keep away from me. But what is the reason? I told you to keep away. Don't disturb me, don't disturb. Means what is happening? The mind, the disturbance, and because of the disturbance, the experience of a disturbed personality, all these three things are very clearly known to me. Be very attentive. When I am able to focus attention on this disturbed status of the experiencer or the happy status of the experiencer in the disturbed or the happy experience, I have tried to focus attention on the Chidabhas. Now, what is said here is one step further. When Antakaran does not have any object to comprehend, Shuddha Sattva, in that Shuddha Sattva, there will be a reflection of the Purusha, and because there is no vritti in that Shuddha Antakaran, there will be reflection of the Purusha, Chidabhasa, and in the absence of the vritti, there cannot be any bhoga. Remaining in that is called as asampradnyat samadhi or yoga. Why it is asampradnyat? There is no knowledge. Why there is no knowledge? There is no vritti. See? And from this reflection of the Purusha in the thought-free chitta, chitta vritti nirodha, in that chitta where there is no thought, in that the reflection of the Purusha, when that is the point of our focus, what will happen? That cannot be spoken, because all happening ends. Tada drashtuhu sarupe avasthanam. So, yaha tu tasmad vishishtaha chitimatra rupaha anya paurusheyaha pratyaha tatra sayyamad purusha vishaya prajna jayate. So in that, when we focus attention, then purusha vishaya prajna jayate. We are able to recognize, hey, this is what is called as the Chidabhas. This is what is called as the Chitta. This is how the Chitta comprehends anything through the medium of the thought. And the moment it is comprehended through the medium of the thought, the bhoga takes place. So if there are no thoughts, there will be only reflection of the Chaitanya in the thought-free antakaran. And when there is reflection of the Chaitanya in the thought-free antakaran, there is no bhoga, because there is no vritti, there is no thought. And that is asampradnyata yoga or the samadhi. And when this is practice, it ultimately leads to the Shuddha Chaitanya, which is beyond the scope of comprehension through any means. Therefore, Paurusheyaha Pratyayaha Tatra Drishyate. So, Purusha eva tam pratyayam svatmavalambanam pashyati. Now, as regards the Shuddha Purusha is concerned, so what we have been talking about, only the reflection. But when you come to the Shuddha Purusha, Shuddha Chitimatra, so Purushaha eva tam pratyayam svatmavalambanam pashyati. So when we come up to this point, our sadhana is over. Then the Purusha takes over and the Jiva Bhava, the seeker, I am doing, everything disappears. And is Purushaha evatam pratyayam svatma lambanam pashyati. Therefore, tathahi uktam vijñātāram are kena vijaniyāt iti. So, who will know the knower? Meaning, the knower and the known difference disappears in this Shuddha Purusha. And when this difference disappears, where is the question of many Purushas? See? This is how it slowly takes us deeper and deeper, nearer and nearer to one's own self. Read this commentary. We try to read, nothing goes in. I know here the Hindi language also, what he has used is extremely Shastriya Bhasha. And in this, it is difficult to comprehend. So, Buddhi Sattvatmana Purusha Pratyayena ja Purushaha na drishyate. So, by the reflected consciousness, the pure consciousness cannot be seen. Purushaha na drishyate, because chitya jadaha prakashyate na jadena chiti. Chitya, by the Chaitanya, the inert can be illumined and not the other way around. Purusha pratyaha tu achidatma. Katham chidatmanam prakashayet. So, Purusha pratyaha, the reflected consciousness in the chitta, is jada. How will it illuminate the Shuddha Purusha? So, Purusha evahi svatma avalambanam pratyam pashyati. Therefore, Atma Bodha is different from Atma Jnana. Atma Jnana is recognition of this Purusha's reflection in the Chitta. Atma Bodha is going beyond the thoughts, beyond the Antakaran, and recognizing the immediate experience. That is what is called as aparokshanubhuti. There is no parokshata, there is no any medium through which this is recognized. So, tathahi uktam vijñātāram are kena vijaniyāt avang manasa gocharatvat. Because the absolute self is beyond the scope of speech, mind and the speech, mind and any other instrument of knowledge. Now when this happens, then the 36th sutra, tataha pratibha shravana vedana adarsha asvada varta jayante. So, what we have done in the last sutra is Swartha Sayyama. Swartha Sayyama means we have done the Sayyama on this reflection of the consciousness in the antakarana which is thought free. After that is done, tataha, as a result of this, the following things happen. Up to here, we have done Sanyama and something has happened. So after you have done this Purusha, rather the Purusha Khyati or the Swartha Sanyama, as a result of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 siddhis take place automatically. Whether you want or you don't want. It is something like, buy one and take 6 free. It is something like that. So, which are those? Tataha, after the Purusha Sanyama, Pratibhascha, Shravanascha, Vedanascha, Adarshascha, Asvadascha, Vartascha iti Shad Pratibha, Shravana, Veda, Adarsha, Asvada, Varta, Jayante, Pratibham, Pratibham, Jnanam. So, these are the 6 kinds of siddhis takes place. Now, which are those 6 siddhis? This is explained in the Bhashya. Now here, one very important point is brought out. Pratibhat, Sukshma Vyavahita Viprakrishta Atita Anagata Jnanam iti Tatha Uktam. We were told by the Pratibha, we get the Sukshma, that subtle knowledge which is beyond the limitations of any wall or on the top of the mountain or the base of the ocean, the past and the future, everything is said. Now, here, in addition to this, by this particular siddhi, or rather Sanyama, Shravanat, Shravana means Divya Shabda Shravanam. Then, Vedana means Tvag Indriya Vibhuti. Then, Divya Sparshadhigamaha. Then, Adarsha Divya Rupa Samvit. Asvadat Divya Rasa Samvit. And Vartataha Divya Gandha Samvit. In this manner, these 6 kinds of siddhis, that means these are alaukika experiences. These experiences do not belong to the mortal frame of experiences. They are alaukika. They are belonging to the different world. So, these Divya Gandha Vijnanam iti etani nityam jayante kamanam vinapi. Even without any desire on the part of the yogi, all this Divya, divine siddhis takes place. Oh, very good. Immediately there is a caution. What is the caution? 37 Sutra. Te samadhau upasargaha vyutthane siddhayaha te pratibhadayaha samahita chittasya utpadyamana upasargaha tad darshana pratyanikatvad vyuthita chittasya utpadyamanaha siddhayaha. Now, all these 6 siddhis, Pratibhadayaha, Pratibha, Shravana, Vedana, Adarsha, Asvada and Varta, these 6 kind of siddhis, Utpadyamanaha Satyaha, they are manifesting before the recognition of the absolute reality, that means before realization. Be very attentive. What we have done? We have done the Swartha Sanyama. By the Swartha Sanyama, the Vritti Rahit Antakaran and the reflection of the consciousness in that Antakaran, they are clearly, separately understood. On that Purusha reflection, we have done the Sanyama. As a result of this, we are now, next step is merging with the Absolute. It is something like, when you look at somebody's picture, because you have to go and receive that person on the railway station or the airport, so seeing that picture of that person, is the last but one step. From there, we will see that, hey, he is the same person. In the same manner, when we are able to recognize the reflection of the consciousness in this antakarana, so from there, the next step is recognition of the Shuddha Chiti, Shuddha Purusha. Now, at this stage, this happen. Now, at this stage, this happen. Then what will happen? You have seen the picture to receive the person, and suddenly somebody comes and start talking to you. Are Gupta ji, kahan ja rahe? Come, let's have a cup of tea. There is a lot of train time, trains. Do you think they come on time? No, he is coming for the first time, I also not him. Don't worry, it's not a big city. It's a small place. Don't worry. And then Siddhi, you are going there, waiting there, somebody came and gave you a cup of tea free. So you went after that. And that fellow, he comes disgusted, doesn't see anybody, takes something and gets somewhere lost and reaches home somehow or the other. And Gupta ji comes and tells wife, your brother has not come. And the brother is sitting inside. Jijaji, I knew that you are not going to come. No, promise I had come. But so what happened, Agrawal ji aaye, and these are all the siddhis. So clearly it is mentioned here. Therefore, te pratipadaya utpadyamana satyaha samahita chittasya upasargaha vignarupa ityartha. See? Because when this divya gandha, divya drishti, all these various experiences start coming, we get carried away by that. When I was sitting for meditation, I saw bright light. And then I was lost in that. See? Therefore, never give any importance, any value to any experience that is attracting your mind as something extraordinary than other people. Other people hear radio songs. I hear in meditation Bansuri. Other people Dafli wale, I hear Mridangam. No difference. Same. Therefore, upasargaha. So, tad darshana pratyanikatvan. Because when these upasargas, vignas, siddhis start appearing, they will divert our mind and again we will get lost in the objective world. Because again the siddhis are meant for creating the vrittis. The moment vritti takes place, bhoga has started. The moment bhoga has started, you have gone away from the Shuddha Purusha Tattva. Therefore, tad darshana pratyanikatvat and vitthita chittasya siddhayaha. Then why they are called as siddhis? Because vitthita chittasya, that person who doesn't have this ultimate as the goal of his life, but for him only little bit of these things are used for earning money, for getting name and fame, for attracting the people. For them these are siddhis. See? Samahita chittasya upasargaha, vitthita chittasya siddhayaha. And that is why they are called as siddhis, because for what you are doing all this, that basic thing changes everything in our spiritual practice. Like you have learned correct shooting by doing a lot of abhyasa. After having done that, now what do you shoot? I received one SMS today about Sardarji. Sardarji asked his colonel, Sir, this is a new gun you have given me. Which side should I face the direction of this gun? So the officer says, whichever side you face and shoot, our country will be benefited. Whether you put that side or to yourself, it's the same thing. So this Sayyama that we do, what for? Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.